Welcome back to the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast. I'm Tim Kotzman. I'm here with LaDoger. Where did this name come from? And what's the correct pronunciation, right? LaDoger or LaDoger?
Nice to see you, Tim. These two questions, I do not have answers to them. These are very commonly asked questions. How to pronounce it? Some people say LaDoger. I think more people say LaDoger, but Michael Saylor himself said LaDoger, and I like the name because it's more like LA, Los Angeles. I like the vibes. So probably go with LaDoger. And what does the name mean? I don't know either. So this was a meme account that I started around 2020, 2021. That was when Elon Musk started tweeting about Doge. And so I just thought it was funny. So I made accounts with Doge as part of the name. And then it was just, there's some ledger influence, some French influence in the name, as you can see, and it just kind of works. So it just sticked, and has been one of the meme accounts on Twitter ever since. And so now that Doge is actually in like a government branch, I think
Yeah.
I think the name is pretty cool, and I think I'll just keep using it.
Awesome. How did you get on how did the journey start creating all of these Michael Saylor images, AI images, or how does all of that work? How did all of that start? All of the portraits, if you will.
Right. So I have been doing generative art for quite a few years. Um, so the main starting point was 2022. That was when this AI model called Stable Diffusion 1.4, 1.5 came out, and it was pretty good. It was good enough to make artsy images. At that time, it was not very good at making. It was very bad actually at making photorealistic images. It was good at making artsy images. Like I made a bunch of anime girls, for example, because that's what people were doing back in the day.
Mhm.
So I've been quite experienced in making generative art. Right? People say AI art, but they're not very intelligent, right? It's just you're controlling. It's learning from existing artwork on how to draw things, and then you just like leverage what they learn, what the models learn from existing artwork. But since they're not very smart, there's a lot of tricks and parameters for you to dial when you want to create art. And so I've been doing it for, well, I mean, over 2 years before I started doing Michael Saylor portraits. So what happened was that in August, uh, in August 2024, this new this new architecture came out called Flux, and it was very good at generating photorealistic human images. And it was also very good. No, not many people know about this, but it was also very good at generating the Bitcoin logo. And so I figured that out very soon because other models, for example, Grok, Aurora, that was the image model for Grok, is bad at generating Bitcoin logo. Um, or other models are not good at doing that. But I noticed this thing, so I decided to take this model. I fine tuned it, meaning I trained a version of it with a ton of Michael Saylor images, publicly available images, and then after a few tries, I think I was lucky, but I got a very good model that is very good at generating Michael Saylor images. And so I just started making them. I just started posting them on Twitter. And somehow, after a few days, since I think it was August the 6th when this new model came out, and it took me a few days to try out to train the model. And Michael Saylor himself reposted his my portrait of a portrait for the first time on August 20th. It was the professor Saylor one, him writing mathematical equations on the chalkboard, and he was like, uh, at, uh, like from my calculations, Bitcoin is going up forever. Rocket emoji, that one, right? So I saw that, I was like, oh wow, this is amazing, right? Like I'm just finding out things, and Michael Saylor noticed it, so I just kept making more and more portraits, and I made a website, and I just put all my portraits on it. I made probably 1,000 until now. Like I make at least one every day, sometimes multiple, obviously, and it has been very successful, I would say. People like it, and and Michael Saylor himself liked it, and I think it helps turn Michael Saylor as like the de facto go-to brand for Bitcoin, because I almost always include the Bitcoin logo in the image.
Mhm.
And I think like from a branding perspective, this is perfect, right? Because Michael Saylor, you do like juxtapose Michael Saylor and Bitcoin, and they just work very well for what we're trying to do here. Because I myself, I'm fully ported into MSTR stock, Microstrategy back then, now strategy. So it's in my best interest if the leader of the company that I'm invested in is associated with Bitcoin, right? So
Mhm.
I enjoy it. I'm not an employee of strategy. I'm just a fellow shareholder, but I'm doing it as a hobby.
When you first started a few years ago with the portraits versus now, did it take you longer back then and a shorter amount of time now? Like, how long does it take you on average or a range to kind of create and refine and have a portrait that you're happy with?
It's definitely a craft. So I think experience matters a lot. Um, so 2 years ago, I mean, more than 2 years ago now, like 2.5 years ago, back then, um, it's artsy. It's artsy output. So you don't make photorealistic. You make either anime style. You combine. Usually, the go-to way to do it is you combine two artists a style together. You say make a portrait of a young woman in the style of say Leonardo da Vinci and Pablo Picasso, and then the AI model is very good at merging styles together.
Mm.
So that was what people were doing back then. And it was easier back then because it's more abstract, it's artsy. It's not like if it doesn't look like the subject, it's okay because it's supposed to be artsy, right? So it was easier back then. But when people are trying to do photorealistic images, it became way harder. Because if it's photorealistic and it doesn't look like the subject, then it doesn't look like a photo, right? So it was very hard in 2023 and early 2024 to make photorealistic images. There's a lot of tactics, a lot of tools, a lot of steps just to make a good one. But since Flux came out, it was so good at generating photorealistic human images that it became easier again, and probably only around August, it would take me probably half an hour to 1 hour to make a good at that time by the standard back then, a good portrait.
Mhm.
But standards have risen by a lot, and it so I've got it better, but my standards have risen more. So actually, it took longer and longer to make portraits
Hmm.
as time went on. So a good one, the one that I'm proud to show people, would take over an hour because I will have tried very many different ways of doing it. Different compositions. It's not just being looking like the subject, but also the image is supposed to be a good image, like a good photography. So it will take longer. But to make the same image of the same quality back then in August, it would be impossible. It would take way longer. So it's like it co-evolves, is what I'm saying here. And so recently, like a few weeks ago, like a month ago. So today is Valentine's Day when we're recording this. Flux, they released a new fine tuning service, and now you'll be able to fine tune a ultra high resolution image, and by it's not just high resolution, it's also high fidelity. And what happened was that it's it's I think that it's better. It's better, meaning it now takes less tries to get an image that is good enough, right? You always hit diminishing returns, right? Like if you, let's say you try 20 different ways of doing the image and you pick the best, and you try 40 different ways to pick the image and you to generate the image and you pick the best. The image from the 40 tries will not be twice as good as the one with 20 tries, right? It
Mm.
will be slightly better. It's like that. So this new way of generating images, you get there sooner. You maybe take only 5 tries to get to be happy enough. So now it actually takes shorter to generate a good enough portrait. Maybe half an hour will get me there. So that's why I've been trying a lot of new styles recently, right? I've been trying, for example, I've been trying not just photorealistic, but Renaissance painting style, because Saylor tweeted about the crypto Renaissance, right? I've been trying sci-fi, like science fiction, retro science fiction style, and I've been trying right like as of right now, I've been trying non-portraits. Right? I've been trying concept art. I'm trying to not just be a portrait artist, but also be a concept artist, which I think is harder because there's so many people on Midjourney out there trying to do sci-fi concept art. So I'm joining a very crowded scene.
Mm.
But how do I stand out? Well, first of all, I'm doing Bitcoin art and I'm doing strategy art, right? There's symbolism in the images that I'm trying to make here. So that will make it different. It will make it stand out. And also, I'm using a different tooling as most people, right? I think the tooling that I'm using are like the most professional out there. So I myself, I'm not really a professional artist. Like I'm only a generative artist. I haven't done, I'm not good at drawing things, for example. Um, so so I'm just focusing it in such a small niche to the point that I'm the best in my niche. So that's the entire reason why I'm doing this here.
Well, we all really enjoy it. So thank you for all of your efforts. And yeah, it's just awesome and very fun and everything that you said. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by OnRamp. Bitcoin custody is evolving. Both self custody and single third party custody come with significant risks and trade offs. OnRamp is pioneering a new standard, multi institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure, adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your setup. OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated, cold storage, multi-sig vault, guarded by 3 independent, institutional grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. To learn more, schedule a consultation with the OnRamp team. Go to www.onrampbitcoin.com. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and background and maybe where you're sitting right now and how you got initially into Bitcoin and then your journey from Bitcoin to Microstrategy and then strategy?
Right. So I'm Taiwanese. So I grew up in Taiwan, in Taipei, and I I studied law in school. But after I graduated, I worked in finance for about 5 years. Worked in banking actually, and it was also in Taiwan. I didn't. I actually got admitted to several U.S. law schools, like Ivy League, like good schools, but I didn't go because the tuition was just too crazy. And so I decided to just get into tech, like more of a tech and startup and quote unquote crypto scene, right? So what happened when I was working in a bank was that I noticed how international commerce, international remittance was very inefficient. Right? You need all these paperwork for all these things, especially after the Trump administration. The previous one did all these sanctions and all these required paperwork for anything. Right? If someone's name sounds like a certain ethnicity like group, then you need a lot more paperwork to make things happen. And we're just so inefficient. And like the time it takes, all that. I'm sure everyone here understands what I'm talking about. And so I got it. I was curious about ways to transfer value um, more efficiently and without like less constraints. And obviously Bitcoin, right? So in university, I already learned about Bitcoin. I was reading tech articles back then, and it was talking about this currency on the internet that anyone can mine. You don't need to buy from someone. You can mine. You can transfer it, and it has gone up a lot. So I've always known about Bitcoin, but it was when I actually worked in finance where I realized that Bitcoin is actually something very interesting. It's not controlled by anyone, and it can do a lot of things that the financial system wants to do or says that it does, but is not very good at doing. So but back when I was in school, I didn't have money, right? But when I started working, I had money, so I started putting money into Bitcoin. Um, yeah, and oh, and also I also bought a bunch of Tesla stocks when I was working in the bank. So that will happen later, right? That will come in handy later. So I then now have some money in a stock brokerage account. I never I only invested in U.S. stocks, like U.S. tech stocks from the very beginning. Like, I'm not a like a generic investor who buys anything. I only buy tech stocks. But so what happened in 2020 was that there was this company called Microstrategy. They bought Bitcoin, right? I was like, oh, finally, because whenever I wanted to tell people about Bitcoin, they almost always ignore me, right? They say, I don't understand it. Is this is this a scam, right? Who uses this? Only kids like you use these things, right? Adults don't use it. But in 2020, it changed, right? This Nasdaq company, again, I invest in tech stocks. This Nasdaq company now bought 250 million, then 250 million, then like almost a billion dollars in 2020, right? And Dylan LeClaire tweeted about it, and Dylan LeClaire bought some. Right? I saw it. So I just started noticing this company, and I bought like one share in 2020 just to show support. And then in 2021, multiple things happened, right? MicroStrategy went parabolic. It went to 1,200 pre-split, right? $1,200 per share. MNAV. Nobody was talking about MNAV back then, but people were talking about how the stock went up way more than how Bitcoin went up. So that was a big news. And in May of 2021, it mostly because of the China banning mining Bitcoin in China, and so all the miners, like the hash rate went down like 30% or something, and Bitcoin also crashed because Elon Musk on SNL was talking about Dogecoin, but um, Barry Silbert tweeted about shorting Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin crashed from 74 cents to I think like 30 cents or something like that. And Elon was mad, so Elon also said he's gonna dump his well, no, he said Tesla is not going to accept Bitcoin anymore or something like that. And Bitcoin went down a lot, right? Bitcoin went from 50 something K to like 30 something K. And MicroStrategy stock dipped below, 1x MNF. At that time, we say dipped below, like liquidation value or something like that. So I I sold half of my Tesla stock and got in and bought a MicroStrategy stock.
Mm.
In that there's one week of window when it was below 1x MNF. So I got in. So that was my larger entry. It was about like $50 post split, like today's value. So that was pretty good. Um, and back to crypto. So I was mostly in Bitcoin, but the thing about Bitcoin is that the fees were very high back then. Now it's low. Back then it was so high that if you want to do like transfer money, you have to use other chains. So 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 in 2020, Ethereum was a thing, and I also had a bit of Ethereum, but even Ethereum got to like $100 per transaction. You want to use Uniswap to swap the token, that's $150. Thank you very much. So that's not good either. So Polygon what came out, and then Solana. There's a few of these chains, and so I was forced to look into them. Also, Dogecoin. I forgot to talk about Dogecoin. So Elon was tweeting about Dogecoin in I think as early as 2019, and just for the joke, I bought some Dogecoin, and that's also part of the reason of why this account name is LaDoger. Um, Dogecoin, I don't think we should go too technical in this interview, but at that time, Dogecoin was supposed to be better at payment than Bitcoin. So I tried to use Dogecoin for payment, but it didn't work well. So in the end, Dogecoin really was not a very good cryptocurrency, as they call it. But anyway, the point is that so in 2021, I got involved in multiple crypto layer one blockchains, as they call it. And so that's how I gained a lot of knowledge about this industry. It's not so much about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, even in 2021, it's supposed like it's been called a store of value, right? People don't use it for payment that much, like barely. In Asia and in China, for example, they all use USDT on Tron, right? I think in South America as well. And probably in 2021, a lot of people were using Binance Smart Chain, BSC or BNB chain. They changed the name now. And so these I call them smart contract platforms because they allow you to write complex smart contracts, unlike Bitcoin, which is intentionally limited in its functionality to be more secure and more scalable, like more scalable in a sense. Um, so I got into a lot of these. Um, Most of them were doing well in 2021 because of the COVID stimulus check, but most of them went very bad in 2022. So what happened in 2022 was that Luna, first of all, Three Arrows Capital crashed, right? And then all these lending platforms like Celsius and BlockFi and all these platforms crashed, and FTX crashed, and MicroStrategy dipped below 1x MNAV again. And I remember at that time, a lot of finance friends I had, they told me that MicroStrategy is going to get margin called. They want me to get out as like whenever like when I can. But I did not listen to them because I saw Michael Saylor interviews, and he seems to know what he was doing. Right? He still went on all these TV interviews. He still said the same thing he was saying. Like he wasn't like all these other projects where the founder seems to be on drugs during interview. If you remember that time, it was crazy, right? Michael Saylor seemed very legit at that time, and so I just held, and that turned out to be a good idea. So that was 2022. The all other shit coins I had, I dumped most of them within 2022. So I became like almost all in Microstrategy and Bitcoin during 2022. And 2023, it was just a slow climb up, right? And 2024, what happened was that the Bitcoin ETF got approved, and MNAV started expanding again, and then Quant Bros came out, and that was huge, right? Because now we have an idea, a theory on why the MNAV can keep expanding, and it just make MicroStrategy not just a Bitcoin proxy that people said, but it's an actual sustainable Bitcoin business because I've seen the crypto industry, and what I noticed was that it is very, very difficult to create a sustainable Bitcoin business. And most Bitcoin businesses they fail. Um, the ones who survived our Bitcoin businesses turned into crypto businesses, like exchanges started listing shitcoins to pump and dump. That's how they make money, right? But that's immoral, and that's not sustainable either. You go to prison for that. And it occurred to me that MicroStrategy was the first ever sustainable Bitcoin business that I can think of. So that's huge, right? So for 15 years, nobody figured out a sustainable way to run the Bitcoin business. And now you introduce this way of the way of including call options in your bonds, right? Convertible bonds, so that certain investors like insurance companies can buy them and would like to buy them for the upside. And it's sustainable because they don't have a margin call risk, and they actually offer value to all these buyers. So that's huge. So within 2024, within the few months of consolidation phase, I just put all the remaining tech stocks that I had at that time and convert them into strategy. So I mean MicroStrategy. So I became 100% MicroStrategy during those few months. That was also when I was trying to do the portraits. So I sold my Tesla. I also had some Palantir. Sold my Palantir. Sold too early, but sold them. And so since I'm 100% in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, I just focus on making portrait art instead of focusing on investing since then. And I think that's a pretty good investment investment of time, right? Not in analyzing other stock that I would not 100% fully port, right? What's the point of having a diversified portfolio when one stock is way better than the rest? I think this conversation has occurred like within the community so many times now. So that's it. And also, so when I quit my banking job, I moved to Bangkok because I knew people here, and I like the weather here, right? Same as why Michael Saylor likes Miami for it's like good weather, way more international. It's near most of the major cities in Asia, or the it has a good airport. So I just now base here, and yeah, and I make Michael Saylor portraits and other concept art.
You mentioned the Quant Bros. Was that the first time that the narrative of MNAV and valuing MSTR, was that basically the first time that conversation started in the community from your view, or what else did that kind of introduce or do to help the conversation and the narrative?
So I had my narratives back then. So the MNAV started expanding earlier than the first Quant Bro episode came out. But I had my narrative. I was like, okay, so well, because they have a smaller market cap and there's more money flowing in. So that's why the MNAV goes up. It's the same as 2021, right? It's because a lot of stock investors, they don't even know how to buy Bitcoin. Right? So this was a very, mid-curve narrative at that time, but it made sense, right? But I think it was not epic enough, right? It's a very mid-curve narrative, and if I want to pitch this stock to someone and they ask why is the MNAV expanding, and I say this, it's not good enough, right? So after I saw the Quant Bros episode, I said, okay, this is it, right? This is a sustainable narrative because like index fund inclusions and all that. I also have my own narrative, right? I'm saying um, MicroStrategy is going to do things with their Bitcoin, right? And since MicroStrategy has the most Bitcoin, it's going to be the best at doing whatever Bitcoin can do in the future, right? So that makes MicroStrategy a tech monopoly. So I came up with a tech monopoly idea before I saw Quant Bros, but I think the whole like MNAV, I mean the whole like index fund inclusion and the whole idea which Further Jeff kept bringing up with is that like market cap is synthetic, price is traded on the margin, and so it of course the market cap can be high. Of course it can trade higher, right? If people don't sell, it will just go up. Like this makes the most sense to me, and I like it the most, and I've been using it ever since. So I think Quant Bros really was uh like the cornerstone of all this, right? So for example, right? Let's talk about orange ties, shall we? So the thing about orange ties is that I think it was I who came up with the idea of orange ties. I made this basketball coach Saylor portrait, and it has an orange tie. I think it was the first time it appeared. And then Saylor himself wore the orange tie a few days later. In that event in New York, I forgot which one is it, but he's a Bitcoin advocates such as myself. We wear orange ties. So that, and I also got myself a real physical orange tie after he said that. And then after he wore that, I told Ryan that they should wear orange ties on their Quant Bros show, right? And remember, I think it was like seven, like episode seven. They had the orange Men in Black episode, and that was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you Tim, you started wearing orange ties since that, right? Like I think you were the fourth adopter of orange ties. So that was pretty early, and now everyone's wearing orange ties. And so, but the point is that as you can see, I think the Quant Bros, like this series are so influential that it just becomes the default narrative to me, at least.
The Bitcoin for Corporations conference is coming to Orlando May 6th and 7th. Receive 20% off admission by going to microstrategy.com, selecting Bitcoin for Corporations, and using discount code KOTZ at checkout, and I'll see you there. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Stampseed. If you're in cold storage, you know how important it is to protect your seed phrase. That's why I recommend you head over to stampseed.com and check it out for yourself. This seed phrase storage device is one solid piece of titanium. There are no loose pieces, and you can hammer your seed phrase in letter by letter. When you go to stampseed.com, use promo code TIM15 for a 15% discount across the website. That's TIM15. What do you think the biggest challenge is preventing more companies from holding Bitcoin on their corporate balance sheets?
Well, it's like Michael Saylor said, right? Like Bitcoin knowledge is limited to those with the need to know. If you don't have the need to know, if your main business is doing well, or or if it's not doing well, but you're still taking a good salary and you have a golden parachute, then there really is no reason for you to do it, right? It's only when you have a controlling interest of the company, like how Michael Saylor had with MicroStrategy, and the stocks is not doing well, and the main core business is also not doing that well, and you have a bunch of cash and you don't know what to do with it, then you'll see that Bitcoin is kind of like the only option here because it's a commodity, so any company can put it on their balance sheet. right? Same with Semler Scientific, the same with KULR Technologies. They're all technical founders, right? They're all engineer founders that want to focus on doing what they do best, and not focus on uh marketing stunts and like all that. They want to focus on what they want to do. They want to actually innovate and have a forward looking long term vision. But if you're a publicly traded company, the market, Wall Street, will force you to not be that long term looking. They want the stock to go up right now, but then you'll have to pull off a lot of shenanigans to make the stock go up, and then you're not built for that. You're not good at doing that, right? So they eventually came to the conclusion that, hey, why not just allow our stock to be volatile, right? Buy Bitcoin, our net asset value will be extremely volatile. It's okay. It goes up in the long run. There's already MicroStrategy doing it. Right now it's strategy. There's already strategy doing it. They're doing well. We should do it well. So I think it takes a lot of small companies with founder CEOs, right? Not MBA CEOs, but founder CEOs
Mm-hmm.
in charge to make this happen. So that's corporate, right? Also in other markets like in Japan or in Europe, right? There's also this opportunity to be the first mover, right? But to be a first mover, it also requires risk taking. And so again, I think in the end, it really is about whether you are in a position to take that risk, right? Are you on a high salary that someone else is paying you, or is it your own money? I think that's the most important thing. And also, I think the board, right? You need a supportive board, and a lot of companies, their their boards, even the independent board members, they are not into innovation, right? They're just into running the company. And so you also want to create a board that is supportive, which is what strategy has been working on for so long. And a lot of people have been asking the same question, right? I've been on Twitter Spaces a lot, so they'd be like, "Wait, it's so easy to copy. Why hasn't every single company copied it?" But I was like, "No, it's not. Like, if you've ever run a business, you'll know that ideas are cheap, right? It's the execution that is the hardest." And like converting your entire company to a Bitcoin standard, that takes intense execution, right? You have to convince everyone. You have to actually do it. You have to figure out how to not lose your Bitcoin. You have to resist the urge of trading your Bitcoin, but just holding it. There's so many things, so many education within the organization that has to be done to the point that it's actually very difficult, especially when you're dealing with more senior people who already have a lot of experience in the field and they don't want to adopt new ways of doing things. So this is why MetaPlanet has Dylan as its main Bitcoin guy, right? Dylan is like 22 years old or something like that, right? It's crazy, but it takes these kind of people to make this happen. Most companies don't have that, and so they'll just need more guidance, which is what Strategy is doing right now. Strategy is transforming into a company that offers these guidances, and I think I also am very bullish on that. Right? Again, it's execution. Strategy has had the best execution. The other Bitcoin treasury companies, some of them don't have such a good execution. I'm gonna make some predictions right now. Today is again Valentine's Day. I think GameStop will not be as good at as good at executing the Bitcoin strategy as say strategy or MetaPlanet. I think I think Ryan Cohen, Roaring Kitty, these people, they are mm, they still are not so much in the need to know that they will not be humble enough to just do what works. They will still try to pull off some fancy, they'll try to be cute, is what I'm saying. They'll try to be
Mm-hmm.
cute. and being cute often doesn't work. So I'm making a bold prediction here. I think they'll not fully port into Bitcoin. They'll they'll get into shitcoins, and it will not go so well.
What's your prediction on Semler Scientific, SMLR, and KULR, and like how does that all of that play for you as far as from an investing standpoint? Because you will have these smaller market cap Bitcoin Treasury companies that you know hopefully most of them will be successful, but as we've seen, Bitwise has an ETF product that they're bringing to market where the threshold to be in the ETF product is having at least 1,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So how do you view all of these? Hopefully, more and more every month, Bitcoin Treasury companies coming into the public markets.
I think MetaPlanet is going to do very well. Semler and KULR, I think they are not as memeable as Strategy. They are just very standard Bitcoin Treasury companies. Their founders are not trying to become a meme. So I'm actually in contacts with some of these Bitcoin Treasury companies. They would like to have a lot of these media coverage, but it's not easy, right? Michael Saylor is very well read. He has a certain charisma, right? He has his own humor. He's written books. Right? He has a very interesting backstory, and he has held through 2022 without selling Bitcoin. That was pretty huge.
Mm-hmm.
All these stories create legends, and he also has a lot of artists supporting him, right? These other Bitcoin treasury companies will have to work very hard to make this happen. I think what will happen is because they will start at a way lower market cap, so they would perform better in the beginning, but they'll plateau, they'll hit a cap. They would not be able to catch up with Strategy, and there will be other small new Bitcoin treasury companies coming out looking to have a piece of their have a share of their premium, right? I mean, if they don't have a premium, then it's okay, right? But if they have a premium, then the shareholders will be like, well, why don't I just invest in this newer, smaller Bitcoin treasury company instead, right? So I think a lot of small Bitcoin treasury companies will be competing for the premium, and I think it will be very difficult. It will be similar to how meme coins are doing on Solana right now. Every meme coin, whatever works, there will be copies to compete with it, and we'll just take out some of the liquidity. Like Trump he launched the coin, and then every other meme coin dumped during the process. I think it will be the same for Bitcoin treasury companies. New big new Bitcoin treasury companies launch, and then older ones will be harder, will be difficult, more difficult for them to raise funds to buy more Bitcoin. But it will still be good because that's the most important thing about Bitcoin, right? It's a digital scarcity, so it's non-dilutive. Even though it will be harder for you to raise funds in the future, at least a new competitor will push up the underlying asset value to the point that it's still a net benefit for you. So I think that's gonna happen. Small Bitcoin treasury companies compete. Some will win. Maybe GameStop. Maybe if they are in a position to win, right? If they fully port into Bitcoin right now, they'll be the second largest Bitcoin treasury company in the entire world, and they got the meme value in it. They got famous people. They got a very hardcore supporting community. Right? They can do it. But if you're just a random shell company, and maybe Tim, you go take over a shell company and you try to turn it into a Bitcoin treasury company, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to compete with Michael Saylor for attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you can do that? I think very few people can do that. So
Yeah,
yeah, so it will be challenging. But being in early, I think is the most important, right? If you convert into a Bitcoin treasury company right now, then you're still in a good position because no matter what, I think your net asset value will go up. So even if your MNAV doesn't go up, your stock still goes up a lot.
that's really interesting. I've thought for a while now, and I've heard from people that there'll be opportunities for people to, similar to Dylan, right? Like almost like a Bitcoin treasury officer or someone to communicate what the company's doing. Maybe more and more opportunities on that front. But now hearing you saying that in essence there might be a market for generative artists for and just how do you create that community around the brand, around the equity? Is there anything else that you think is like an emerging sort of additional aspect to all of this? You're right, the communications, the community, which would be the meme and that sort of retail base. But yeah,
Well, as of right now, since it's very early, right? This is year one, right? Last year was year zero. This is year one
mm-hmm,
of like a corporate Bitcoin adoption. Right now, it's simple. You just launch your company in different market, like how MetaPlanet is in Japan.
mm-hmm,
You don't have competition, right? You launch one in I don't know the UK, for example. Maybe it will do well. I'm not sure whether they allow you to do that, but let's say you do that, then you don't have competition. Then you'll be the only one, right? So Tim, you can launch one in the UK, and I can make some media content for you. Maybe it will perform well, right? So as of right now, Bitcoin treasury companies are like layer one chains in late 2020 or early 2021, right? Even if you're just Polygon or Solana or Phantom, these are some, I know they're shitcoins, but they had a lot of success in 2021, right? So what did they do? Well, they just did their own chain so that users can transact in low fees, right? They don't have to go on Ethereum. They can go on Solana, right? They're just trading shitcoins. It doesn't matter which chain they're on, right? You offer the platform for people to trade shitcoins, and then they'll come, right? Right now we are at this phase. 2021 for layer ones is like 2025 for Bitcoin treasury companies. You just have to be a different market, and then you'll have users. But in the future, once every market has a Bitcoin proxy kind of thing, then it will be highly competitive. I think then you'll need to be to be a meme stock. Not you need to be a Bitcoin treasury company and a meme stock at the same time, which is what strategy is right now, and which is what MetaPlanet is trying to become, and which is what Semler and KULR are a bit lacking behind right now. So I think they all should try to at least have establish a huge brand, which is challenging, I know, but I think we eventually will go to the same place here. So in the future, all companies will have at least two values, right? The Bitcoin value, which is the actual net asset, like the actual Bitcoin holdings they have, and the mean value on top of their Bitcoin value. And you need to push up the mean value for your company to stand out.
that makes a lot of sense. We just have a few minutes left. I only got through about a quarter of the questions I was hoping to get to, so I hope we can do this again sometime in the next couple of months. This has been a lot of fun. Any closing thoughts? And is there anywhere that people can find you or that you're discoverable online other than the LaDoger on X?
Now I want to focus on LaDoger from now on. So just follow me on X. I'm mostly active. I treat this as one of the most important places for me to interact with people. Just at LaDoger21 on x.com. You can find me there. Repost my art. Thank you for the support. Thank you, Tim, for setting up this interview. Hope to see you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we'll do this again sometime soon.
Thank you, Tim.